touched on rest before. Here's a tip that I do. I try to take mini naps when I need to. I don't try to sleep more than 2 hours. 1 hour, 30 minutes, an hour, 45, but never less than 1 hour. I will do this to keep my energy up as much as I can, but some days I'm just not feeling it, and it doesn't ruin my sleep at night, where the bulk of my recovery time comes from. I've mentioned this before, but you can't, or rather, you won't always stay in a positive space in your mind. People will tell you to stay positive all the time, but you should deal with those negative emotions so they don't manifest in other ways, like drinking or overeating or taking your frustrations out on the people around you. It's not easy, but it can benefit you. I will admittedly indulge in negative thoughts. When I do, I take a step back and I look at how I feel and understand that I cannot allow myself to feel that way forever. And tomorrow, I may feel different. Trying to stay objective all the time is not easy when everything feels like it's falling apart with your health or, your personal life, your relationship, your work, but mostly your health. It can be easy to get caught in a downward spiral, but to me, I try to depend on myself a lot to pull myself out. Sometimes I can't, and I need help, and that's okay. Assessing resources is a thing for me. It's okay to need help. It's okay to ask for help. But I would only turn to those I know will be there. That is where assessing comes in. There's no worse feeling than going to someone that you thought you could depend on and the relationship wasn't what you thought it was because you didn't see it. I've had plenty of people abandon me when I really needed them. But it's also important not to ask everything of a person and try to do things yourself. Being considerate in times of stress is a big one for me. My happiness is not anyone else's responsibility, nor should I try to make it. We all slip at some point, but we as individuals have to try to be our own rocks. Not like Dwayne. Not like The Rock. As much as we can. But good support is helpful. At the clinic, they have, and I'm doing this in air quotations, progress reports based on blood work they do monthly. And those reports tell you, the patient, what you need to do to make things go a little smoother. For example, if my sodium is too high based on my blood work, then I know I have to cut down or eliminate high salt products from my diet. It's something that I've been doing currently to make my dialysis treatments and my overall well-being and health go a little bit smoother. Now, with all this stuff, it may seem like, oh, well, this guy thinks he's perfect. Oh, he just got it all figured out. I don't. I really don't. These are just little steps I try to make it a little easier for myself. Because as I've stated before in previous videos, the last thing I want to do is go back to the hospital. I don't. And if there's something that I can do to prevent that, that's what I'm going to do. I want to say this. I am not perfect. And I am not on it 100% of the time. For me, it's about lessening the mistakes I make through my actions and understanding what I need to do and move towards that. There's no rule book on all this. I'm still and will probably always navigate through this. All of these things that I've been doing lately are working for me for right now, but it's not set in stone. Things could change. I may adopt new ways and refine others, or get rid of some ways altogether. I try to be flexible and open to learning when I'm ready to. One thing that nobody ever really talks about when it comes to dialysis is the feeling of grief when the circumstances for why you're on dialysis are out of your control. I flow through the various states of grief all the time, every day. Some days I'm fine, and some days I rage over what has become of me in my life. Some days I want to end it all. And some days I want to fight with everything that I have to try to live just one more day. I know that people have told me for years that I and my feelings don't matter. Oh, well, your feelings aren't a thing, Carl, because you are not important. Especially being a black male, I was told that we don't have feelings. We don't experience trauma because we are not humans like other humans. It's something that is still happening to this day in society. Grief is very much what I'm feeling over the loss of my everything. But most importantly, of who I used to be and the idea I will never be that person again. The desperation of wanting to look in the mirror and be proud of who you are and recognize yourself. Dialysis is a big deal. It's a life-altering event, and in many people's lives, if you have to do it, 1 minute, you're fine. Then you're not. And for me, the unfairness of the air quotations universe can send you into some pretty dark places. And while you're trying to make things work over here, you have this group of people telling you what you are feeling isn't real. These are the exact people you shouldn't have in your circle, healthy or not. I can sit here and talk about the technical aspects of dialysis all day long. There's plenty of YouTube channels and websites that do. They tell you what the machines do, how you're supposed to feel, what the machines do in your body, what blood cells do, all that stuff. I focus on mental health so much because it's so important to all of this. Where the head leads, the body follows in some cases, if it's able to do so. Not knowing what will happen to you and having your mind spiraling out of your control can be overwhelming. It can be hard to stay present, worrying about the past and the future. Making things small, one task at a time, if possible, helps me a lot. I was watching Superman, the Man of Steel, and there was a scene where Superman's young and his powers are starting to manifest. And he locks himself in this closet and his mom is called. And in order to sort of coax him out of the closet, she tells him to make the world smaller when he says that everything is overwhelming and it's too big. And that's sort of the mentality that I try to adapt or adopt is I try to make things smaller and not worry so much about the big picture, because when I used to do that, it used to just make me sad and it would overwhelm me So I would just try to take it one step at a time and just make things smaller. Now, I've said this before, none of this is a science, right? Like, none of this is, well, this is absolutely positively going to work. No, 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 no. It's not. None of this is a science. It's navigating and finding what works for you. Find your way. And thank you for listening. I don't know if my words actually reach anyone, but doing this, recording these videos, writing these scripts, it helps me and it gives me something to focus on, and I like that. Transplant centers can take an eternity to do anything. It's important to understand that, or at least it is for me. I don't want to put all my hope into this one thing, because transplant centers and transplants, it's not guaranteed. If it doesn't happen for me, then I'll be devastated. And I'm not a big hope guy anyway. And I'm more of a wait and see guy. So if it goes south, then I'm not disappointed. So in closing, I think a theme that I have here is control, or as much control as you can have under your circumstances. Control is an easy thing to lose because some things are out of your control. And I'm learning that there are no real answers to our questions, and the answers we think we know can change. So thank you for listening. And for anybody who's like listening to this right now, I really appreciate the time that you're taking to listen to these videos. I know that my audience and my viewership isn't very high for these videos, but I'm mostly doing this as a documentation of my journey through this. You know, I don't want to ever be in a point in my life where I forget any of this, or like some of the older generation that came before me, something bad happens to you, just walk it off and you just forget and you never mention it again. Like, I never want to get to a point where, I forget this really, really dark time in my life. And I've said this before in other videos, it's also a documentation. So no one can ever tell me that this didn't happen. My entire life, I've always had, and I mentioned this earlier, I've always had people in my life to tell me that what I feel is not a thing. Well, you are not important, Carl. Therefore, nothing that happens to you matters. So nobody can ever say to me, oh, well, F you, Carl. Well, whatever happens to you it just doesn't matter because you're nothing. Well, no, because the proof is right here. This is a documentation of everything that has happened to me in the past 2.5, almost 3 years of me initially getting sick. So screw you. You have no legs to stand on. So you can scoff if you want to, but the evidence is irrefutable. It's right here. And you can't tell me that this incredibly traumatic event did not take place because of your own personal dislike of me, because you have your head up your ass and you're a piece of trash. And what ends up happening when you have people that tell you that over and over and over again is you start to believe it. Maybe I am making a bigger deal out of it. Maybe my feelings and my opinions don't really matter. And that's exactly what they want from you. They want to make you feel bad. They want to make you feel small. They want to make you feel like you don't matter. But you do. I do matter. And what's happening to me is important. And it is traumatic. And it is something that I should care about. And it is something that I should take the time to work through. And I will never let anybody, doesn't matter who it is, friends, family, doctors, nurses, ever devalue me ever again or my situation. And if you're going through something similar, any kind of major hardship, neither should you. So always remember that. So I'll see you next time. And once again, thank you for listening.